On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
If I was a brand new listener to your show, just getting into real estate, banks would be my last option, not my first.
You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz Wolfe, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in.
What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolfe, Gathering the Kings podcast. Today, I've got Derek Dombeck on the King stage. My brother, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Chaz. How are you?
You know, I'm incredible. Thank you for asking. But just before we hit the record button here, man, we were talking about some good stuff, and I hope it comes up. Just to give the listeners a quick little snippet, we were talking about us doing business with our kids, and how there doesn't have to be this regular process that they go through, school or unrelated, whatever. But maybe we get to some of that. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Tell us what kind of business that you have.
I'll give you the short version of a really long 20-year story. But I mean, currently our core business is we run a hard money lending company. And that started in a grassroots effort. And I'll kind of start at the beginning a little bit. But just so you know, everything we do is we're privately funded. We don't deal with institutional money. We deal with real people as our investors. We deal with real people as our borrowers, and that's our core business today. But how we got there was kind of a show, to be honest. And I started like most people, bought a couple fixer-upper rentals back in 2003, 2004, and built up. I mean, I was a contractor, a construction worker right out of high school. So I've got a PhD, a public high school diploma. But, after that, I just went in, I'm good with my hands and started, working. And so fixing up houses was second nature to us.
Sure.
Back then, my wife, Tracy, and I had, great credit, good employment, good jobs. Banks were throwing money at us. We just kept rolling it, right? We'd get a project, cash out refi, put it into another one. So in about a 2 or 3 year time frame, we built up to about 29 doors. And at that time, about a $4 million portfolio, and we were in our late 20s. We thought we had the world by the ass. Then 2007 hit, and we realized how stupid we were and how much we didn't know, and specifically how little control we had over our business because the banks, the lenders, had all of the control, and they were, plummeting. So,
right.
So we got to a position where, sorted through foreclosures, short sales, forced into learning how to either quit or get really good at being creative on our deal structuring. And we don't believe in quitting. So, I learned how to talk to people. I learned how to negotiate in a way that I feel like is different than most, because I truly have the other party's best interest at heart always. To this day, whether it's somebody we're buying a property from or selling to, or an investor putting money in our fund, or a borrower, our focus is always on how can we, treat them with respect and take care of them. And then it gets reciprocated, but it's not expected. Like, we're not looking for handouts. We're not looking for, I gave you X, so I want Y.
Right.
So I had a couple challenges. We lost the majority of our portfolio. We had to bounce back. And I met my current business partner around 2011, 2012. And it was interesting because he had never used a bank and had been in the business almost as long as I had, but had never used a bank for any real estate deal ever. And I just couldn't believe that. I mean, I didn't know that somebody would be able to raise private capital from, friends, family, perfect strangers, whatever it was, because I always felt like I was taking from somebody. Like if you had $100,000, Chaz, and I came to you sheepishly and said, could I borrow your $100,000?
Right.
I felt that I was begging.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, Chaz, I've got an opportunity for you to make 8, 9, 10% return on your $100,000. Would you like to hear about it?
Yep.
Totally different, right? So that was the mindset shift. And the other thing that when I met Jeff and we started our businesses together, that he kind of pounded in my head, I was of the belief that I would get 100 rental units that each cash flowed $100 a door, and I'd make $10,000 a month, and we'd be living, the high life. And that was the sales pitch in 2003. I hear the same sales pitch in 2022 with the exact same numbers, by the way.
Right.
And nobody really talked about the fact that to have 100 doors is a full-time job.
Right.
And Jeff says to me, he says, how long do you think it takes to manage 100 loans versus 100 rental units? I said, I have no idea. And the answer is an hour a week, maybe.
Yeah. 0.
And who has all the control? The lender. So it took a little bit of a shift. And at that time, we were still buying, selling, flipping, and using private capital. But we got to the point where we raised more money than we had deals to use the money on. And that's when the lending company, Best REI Funding, was really started in its infancy. We'd have an extra few $100,000. We have relationships with other people from our local real estate investor associations.
Right.
We played, matchmaker, monkey in the middle.
That's right.
And so that parlayed itself into what is today 20 to 25 loans a month, several $1 million a month going out the door in loans, and just a full-time business with a staff of, 9, 10 people, depending on how many VAs you count and things like that.
Yeah.
And
incredible.
again, all just from the grassroots of a construction worker with a PhD.
Yeah, you solved a problem. Obviously, it was a problem that you had that you didn't even know you had, but you got introduced to it and obviously expanded out. I love that. I do want to know, before we get too much more into some of the layers, what makes you tick as a business owner, somebody who's growing and pushing and shoving? I know you got other things going on, even outside of the lending company.
Yeah.
Why? Like, what's the deeper thing for you?
If you would have asked me 4 years ago, the answer would have been much, much different, because I would have been more focused on the financial side of building some big empire.
Sure.
And the answer today is clearly 100%. My personal vision is time with my family, time with my wife and my kids. We pass up opportunities that could add more zeros to the bank account on a weekly, monthly basis. They don't fit our vision for our life. And I got smacked upside the head at a mastermind a few years ago, pointing out, my wife was sitting next to me crying, that, me answering the phone every night and every weekend and, telling my kids to be quiet because it's 7:30 at night and we're watching TV, but I have to take a phone call because I can't lose this potential deal. I got told by my peers in a mastermind what an idiot I was. And something as basic and simple as that we all should instinctively know, most of us ignore. And, to see what it was doing to my family, and the fact that I said, as a man, as a provider, however you want to stereotype it, not trying to be sexist, but men are, we feel like we should be providers.
Yeah.
We'll internalize it and say, we're doing it for our families. We're taking these phone calls, we're working these nights and weekends for our families, when in fact, we're actually doing harm to our families while we think we're doing something for them. And when you have some very, successful peers all staring at you, and again, your wife is sitting next to you crying, it should
change you.
It should change you. If it doesn't, there's something wrong. And so today, everything is just vision driven. If it doesn't fit the vision we have for our lives, it's easy to pass on the shiny objects. And that's not to say that our vision can't change, because it's constantly changing, but keeping it focused, that definitely changed stuff. And that's brought on opportunities that we would have never even been open to in the past. So for example, I do now host 3 of my own mastermind groups on a national level. I never had that in not only in my vision, but in anywhere in my mind that would ever happen. Right. We host a conference once a year on a national level. Never thought that would ever happen. But the opportunities present themselves because we weren't so buried in answering the phone every night and every weekend and, playing from behind, as maybe that's
Right.
a good way of saying it. Most business owners are always playing from behind. You're always trying to react to what just
Mhm.
happened instead of getting ahead of it and having a plan and having people in place to handle the stresses, because there's plenty of them.
Yeah, 100%. I think that not only do I resonate, obviously, I think that a lot of folks listening will too. Tell me, you gave us a little bit of the story about kind of how you got started originally, contractor into, drumming up lending, or I mean, sorry, real estate, and then eventually lending. Tell me about a good decision along the way that, I mean, we got folks listening similar to your mastermind, I'm sure, from all different industries.
Yeah.
And so they're in the process of building. They haven't hit the seven-figure mark, and they're dealing with all the things that you just said, right? They got the phone ringing, they're wearing the hats, they all this stuff. They're reacting. What was a good decision that you made that helped you be proactive as opposed to reactive?
Contrary to what everybody told us, we finally embraced getting employees. We were always of the mindset employees are nothing but a hassle. They're going to lie, steal, cheat, you know, and can that be true? Of course. But I
Yeah.
feel like that all really is built around the culture that you have for your company.
Right.
Our staff and our employees care about our companies. And I say companies because there's about 4 of them, probably as much or more than my partner Jeff and I do. And, they will on their own be working too late into the evening, too much on weekends. Some of them are salary, some of them are hourly, and it doesn't even matter. Even the hourly ones, I guarantee they're working some hours they're not charging us for. And it took a while. We found out our weak points in our management styles, and
Yeah.
my partner and I are very much different in our backgrounds. And he's an IT professional. I came from a construction world, right? But where we're very much in line is our morals and our ethics and putting people first, including our employees.
Right.
But that said, I'm a super control freak, as many entrepreneurs are.
Yeah.
So I wanted to always have my finger on every piece of it, even as we handed it off to employees. And that took a while to give that up. But I can tell you now, Chaz, like my wife and I and kids this summer, we took a 5-week RV trip. I worked no more than 3 hours a day, which was on my calendar. Most days I worked less than 3 hours, and the staff did great. They, they can handle it. We just have to give them enough, you know, strength and encouragement to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That autonomy of space and encouragement, like you said, I think is incredible. What was the serum other than maybe time for you to be able to let go actually to where you can go on a 5-week vacation?
The serum was I was challenged to take that vacation. I was challenged by a peer of mine.
Well,
Because
stress test.
I was jealous of him. He did it the year
Ah,
before.
got
He
it.
did it in 2020 during COVID, and he took a month-long RV trip. And I was talking to him one day, and I'm like, I can't believe he did it. I'm so jealous. I could never do that. And he said, bullshit. If you put it into your vision and that's truly what you want, then make it happen. So my wife and I went, for 2021, and we blocked off the month of July. We had no idea how we were actually going to pull it off. And when it came to June 26th of 2021, when we left our driveway with our fifth wheel and our 3 kids in the truck and had a general direction of west, we live in Wisconsin. We were going west.
We're going west.
No plans. We had friends along the way, that we know through real estate and other things.
Wow.
But we just said we're leaving on the 26th of June. We're coming back August 1st. Why August 1st? Because I coach my son's Pee Wee football team, and that's when practice starts. That was it. And honestly, the first week I was a nervous wreck. The second week I really started to chill out. And by the third week, I wanted to change a lot of what I do in the business, because I got to the point where I enjoyed that freedom so much, and the fact that I could wake up and my family's there and we can just say, you know what should we do today? I don't know. Anything we want, right? So it was very freeing, and it didn't cost me as much as I thought it was going to. My staff didn't have the challenges I thought they would have with me missing in action. Because when you travel west from where I live in Wisconsin to, we made it as far out as Idaho, there's a lot of areas, there's zero cell phone reception. You don't have Wi-Fi. You don't have, like, there's a lot of things that your staff cannot contact you about if it's an emergency. And they were fine. Everything
Yeah.
went fine. So doing it again this year was simple.
Yeah.
Now it's just normal. And we plan on doing it every year.
It's that mindset that you just said, especially if you put yourself in a situation where you literally cannot, distance wise, you cannot help them. And then even cell phone service wise. I remember my first elk hunt that I went on. I hadn't been a business owner for very long, but it was a disaster. Obviously, everything went wrong while I was gone, which for the normal entrepreneur, I think would have been like super discouraging and like, I'm never going to leave ever again. But I've gone every single year. It's what me and my dad do. In September, we're 2 weeks out, we're elk hunting in the woods somewhere. And over the course of time, what has happened is that you realize that, well, what's the worst case scenario? The thing burns down. Hopefully nobody gets hurt, but like, what's the worst case scenario? Like everybody thinks it's just like, well, it's all gone. Well, I can't help with that anyway.
Right.
Call 911. And so when you think about it from that, you're just like, well, what is it that I could do for them anyway?
I was on an elk hunt a few years ago, and we had a dead body in one of our rentals, and my wife had to deal with it because she couldn't get a hold of me. And, it was like one of 4 dead bodies in the last 20 years that we had to deal with. And you mentioned elk hunt, and it just tripped that memory for me. I'm like, yeah, I'm up in elk camp.
Yep.
Talk to the police officers, and they'll call the coroner. Like, there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, nothing that she can do. 911. They'll take care of it,
Yeah.
So, well, it sounds like if we're both elk hunters that we're going to have to eventually connect on that front as well, but we'll keep this conversation in business. I want to know a bad decision. You gave us the good one. What about a bad one?
The worst decision that I ever made, which I had no way of knowing at the time, was using my personal property as leverage on a home equity line of credit and risking losing the roof over my family's head.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy to see all these people on these, bigger pockets or these forums, and they're all talking about this is the best thing, the cheapest money. Yes, it's very, very, intoxicating to say I can get a line of credit at 2 or 3% and available cash instantly. They don't read the fine print. They don't understand most of those loans are callable any point in time. My other lines of credit got cut off in 2007 for no reason. At that point, I was solvent. Everything was fine. But so to me, starting over, if I was a brand new listener to your show, just getting into real estate, banks would be my last option, not my first. And nothing against banks. They have their place. There's no doubt, especially if you can get fixed rate, long-term financing, 30-year type of stuff. Awesome. If you're pledging your personal assets, pledging your personal house and risking it,
right?
To me, that is not worth the risk. And there are so many better ways to buy property creatively and using options and leases and buying property subject to, and there's so many other much better ways, but they take effort. And that's why most people, they want to take the easier route, which they feel like is banks.
Right.
But
which you and I both know that's not necessarily easy either.
No.
Especially for a business owner. On paper, we look very confusing.
Yeah. If you're self-employed, it's not easy. If you still have the job, which back then we had a great job. We had, my wife and I both had really good jobs. So, but I remember the day I walked into my local community bank and said, yeah, we're just about at the point we're going to leave our jobs. He just looked at me across the desk. He said, I wouldn't do that.
Yep.
I want to keep working with you, but I won't be able to write you loans if you quit your job, which is total bullshit. But that's the way the industry is.
Yeah. Yeah. They want that security, and they'll handcuff you to it. Hey, Chaz Wolfe here. As many of you know, I have been on an absolute mission to help entrepreneurs from all across the country in many different industries level up their game and grow their business and intentionally connect with other entrepreneurs. We do that obviously through the podcast, but we also have a peer-to-peer mastermind group specifically for 7 to 9-figure business owners. We are bringing some of the best and most successful entrepreneurs and minds together in a regular and a super intentional way to not only grow our network, but to be able to leverage. And at a certain point in business, success becomes about leverage, leveraging time, leveraging resources, leveraging key relationships. This is exactly what we're doing inside of the peer-to-peer mastermind group called Gathering the Kings, specifically for 7 to 9 figure business owners. So if that's you, if you're ready to level up your 7 to 9 figure business even to the next level and get around other big hitters just like you, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com, fill out a short application, and it'll come to an application call with me, and I want to chat with you to see if it might be a good fit. Talk soon. Okay. Tell me about a discipline or maybe a way that you think about decisions now. You've kind of given us the good and the bad. Now that with all of your success, with all the people that you have around you that are successful as well, how do you think about making decisions today?
Most of my decisions now are based on longevity and trying to get my children, whether they come into the real estate business or not, is immaterial. But I want to get their mindsets different than what is taught in our local school systems.
Yeah.
And giving them opportunities, because we're not handing them anything. And they all know this. I have a soon to be 16-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 5-year-old. And every one of them knows this. Yes, you are in the chain of, you'll get some assets, but everything's in trust. And the trust is very detailed as to their responsibilities if they want to get these assets. And, I feel like my parents hid stuff from me when I was growing up. If there was money problems, they just talk about behind closed doors. We've always been very open. Part of it on a personal level, my wife and I also, while we were losing our ass in 2007, discovered that we couldn't really have kids naturally. So we went through a bunch of infertility issues, in vitros, and ultimately 2 of our 3 children are adopted. And so all that made us really appreciate our kids more than some might.
Yeah.
And that being said, we want them to know, they don't look like us. They don't, I have a Caucasian daughter that's genetically mine. I have a Chinese son and I have an African-American daughter. So we walk around, the streets of central Wisconsin. People are like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
So we've brought them up and are bringing them up to understand that there's nothing wrong with being different. And there's nothing wrong with being different in your financial world too. You don't have to do what your friend Jimmy at school does, or their dad or their mom. There's nothing wrong with it, what their parents do. But, trust me, when you take your kids traveling for 5 weeks straight, their friends notice, and then they have to put up with shit at school, and, their friends bashing them or trash talking them. Right. So we've always just tried to get ahead of it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's why our decisions are the way they are. It's about personal vision, but it's about leaving that legacy for our kids and not having them squander it.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. You're going to give them so many opportunities, but at the same time, what you've really just mentioned is that you're trying to equip them along the way to be able to master those opportunities. And I love the idea of having things prepared and ready, but also them figuring it out. That's what we were talking a lot about before we hit the record button here, is that you gave some examples of some other folks in your life that have some kids involved in the business already. And I think that from a high level, I think it's not next Friday, but the Friday after that, I'm speaking at my kids' small little private school, but I'm going to talk to them about investing and about adding value. And I don't know how many are going to catch it, but the reality of it is that my kids will, for sure, because I talk about it every single day. They know daddy's trying to do deals. We're trying to make connections, all the principles, of what wealthy people do.
What I started with, Chaz, was when McKenna was 10 and she's almost 16 now, I would take closing statements and I would sit down with her and say, well, this is what we bought the house for. This is how much we spent on rehab. This is what we sold it for. Here's our profit. Okay. And I would make her do the math, because everything we do is very basic math, right?
Very basic.
Well, then my daughter drinks milk like it's going out of style. So I said, okay, McKenna, we made a $20,000 profit on this property. This is how many gallons of milk you could buy with this $20,000. And then I said, how many hours would somebody that's working a job at $15 an hour have to work to buy the same amount of milk? Like that was my initial teachings to her at 10. And then as she gets older, now we're sitting there whiteboarding, creative deal structures and figuring out I mean, she knows more about ROI than most adults would ever dream to know,
Yeah.
but it's been a progression. And I just feel like most people want to coddle and hide that from their kids. On the flip side, she has asked me to be able to, start buying houses already. And I said, no, you're 15. I want you to be a kid. There's plenty of time for that. You can absolutely be involved in what mom and dad are doing. And she can get involved in some loans and some note buying and things like that. But I don't want her having to miss her high school prom because she's at a flip project managing some contractors that aren't showing up or something stupid like that, So
Sure.
we're careful with that because I see too many kids, especially we talk about sports. Kids get pushed into sports at 4, 5, 6 years old now. By the time they get to high school, they're burnt out.
Yeah.
I don't want to burn our kids out on real estate. I just want to show them what's possible.
Yeah.
But let them come into it on their own.
Yeah, 100%. I like what you said there, and I'm going to just take a couple of minutes. We don't always get to this topic of kids, of entrepreneurs very often, so I love it when we do. I use this example just the other day because my wife is a dental hygienist by trade, and dental hygienists make good money. $80,000 to $100,000 in most major cities. And for my wife, no real like major background in anything with her family or anything, for her to be able to go to school for 3 years and do that, fantastic. Obviously, with me being a business owner and now multiple business owner and real estate investor and all this fun stuff, that we make money a little differently.
Mhm.
And so first day of school was last Monday, and my 8-year-old daughter, one of the questions on the little board, that the moms take pictures with and stuff, is, what do you want to be when you grow up? And her first initial reaction was dental hygienist. And I was like, do you though, really? For real, And obviously she's young enough where I'm not going to like harp on that, but I told her, I was like, just so you know, the math is this, mommy made, let's say 90,000, we could do that in a couple of projects with, not even a third of the work. It's all about just, the mental, putting the deal together, knowing who to know, buying, the contract, all the value that gets added. And so, not to harp on that per se, because I think we're both doing the same thing, but I think it's just incredible how, from a high level, real estate, business, it's just a different way of thinking, and it's okay. That's what I love. That's what I'm hearing the most of what you're saying is, it's okay to be different. It's okay that our kids are different. It's okay that we toot the horn a little differently, because guess what? It's working.
Yeah. And I think part of it too, like our kids know, well, our oldest knows all the stuff we went through in the 2007s, because she hears me on these, presentations I do, if I'm speaking somewhere. So she hears the same stories I'm telling all the adults. So she knows all the trash we went through. And she has, I won't say my kids are frugal, because they certainly get plenty of stuff, but they're not out there trying to waste money. They understand it can go as fast as it came if you're not careful.
Yep. That's an important rule. And especially if you understand how to use it in the machine,
Mhm.
then you don't want to use
No.
it outside the machine.
I have a religion against paying retail for anything. I mean, it's
That's
just,
funny.
it's not good.
Well, I want to change the conversation here to speed round questions, come at you a different angle. I want you to take, you got your hand in several things. I want you to take business, all of your businesses together, dwindle it down. What's the one trackable metric, if you can only pick one, to track forever and ever? What would it be?
I guess the lending business is easy to track from a metric standpoint of we know how much money we can put on the street. We know what the exact return is going to be on each loan,
Right.
and it's scalable. To buy and sell houses is definitely a lot more volatile, up and down. We still do that. And so I like the metric in lending business of being able to just know, okay, we put out 20 loans this month and it's going to have X percentage of spread. And oh, by the way, when the loan pays off, there's also another chunk coming in. So that's probably, I like that a lot, just from a stability standpoint.
Yeah, 100%. And would you say that, generally speaking, when you know the spread, let's just say, when you're comfortable with the spread or the stability of the spread,
Mhm.
that's really probably what you're saying, is the stability. that the rest of the business for you then kind of falls in line? Like if you know that, then you can kind of calculate or manage the rest.
It does, because you're not making decisions from a stressful position of, are we going to get enough real estate deals? Are we going to get enough, even in our masterminds, I have to have a certain percentage of people that join my masterminds as others fall out, right? In the lending space, even if things started going south, markets shift, you're always in a position of security, because if let's say half of our portfolio of loans defaults, we still have the properties. We can still take those assets and rent them out and have income coming in. But if we had a portfolio of all flip projects going on, or new construction people, right? Like a lot of my friends that are in new construction are kind of freaking out right now with a little shift in interest rates, which most people think is a huge shift.
Right.
And their business is very much affected.
Yeah.
So I just feel, as a control freak, I like the lending space because you have the most control.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. What book would you recommend for a six-figure business owner, Derek?
I think most people do not spend enough time on learning how to actually talk to people and negotiate from a win-win scenario instead of a I gotta beat you scenario.
Yeah.
So I've listened to many sales books and negotiations books. My favorite is written by Orncliffe. It's called Pitch Anything. And then he had a follow-up book after Pitch Anything called Flip the Script. And to me, most of my negotiation style does hinge on what he teaches in those books about just how to take a conversation and steer it without anybody know that you're really steering it, without being malicious and without being, sneaky. And it's all about frame control. And I love those books.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because you're right. Because at a six-figure level, they need more sales. They need more deals. They just need more volume. And sales, negotiation, speaking to people, communication, that's a large part of getting that done. What would you say? My next question that I usually ask is, what do you think about networking or masterminding? Obviously, you run a couple of masterminds of your own. What would you say to the person right now who's listening, has never done it? They've maybe heard of it, maybe they haven't. Maybe they know they need to, or they've heard the value, but they're afraid of making an investment. That person that's listening, what would you say to them?
You're an idiot. I mean, honestly, I say that jokingly, but the first half of my career, when everything went south, I had nobody to turn to. My wife and I were on an island because we had never allowed anybody to into our circle. Like, we were closet investors. We hardly told anybody. And starting in 2012, meeting my business partner, Jeff, embracing the fact that we needed to build a network, which started locally, but ended up national. I can tell you when COVID hit, and we're hosting 3 of our own masterminds at this point, and we belong to another one that we, have been part of for quite a few years. So four different mastermind groups. Everybody's on the phone, calling each other. We're all over the country, so we're able to say, what are you seeing in Atlanta? What are you seeing in, Idaho, Florida, blah, blah, blah. And with very few exception, everybody that I know in those mastermind groups, COVID was their best year in business ever to that date, because we weren't panicking. We were all looking, where's the opportunities? And we found opportunities. So, and I will say, the biggest investor we have that invests in our lending company came from a referral. Actually, a gentleman that's in my original mastermind group, the first one I started, got me a meeting with somebody that he had a relationship with, wanted nothing in return. He just said, Derek, I'll get you the meeting. You take it from there. Whatever happens, happens. And by far, that is our biggest investor that we'll probably ever get. And it's many millions of dollars.
Yeah.
There was no way I would have ever gotten that had I not, number one, been vulnerable with our mastermind group to the degree of saying, hey, we're struggling. We need to raise some money. We've got more loan applications coming in coming in than we can fund. So we became vulnerable as business owners. Chaz and I, I think we have a lot in common, and we talked a little bit before we started recording. We don't have people to go and talk to because we're supposed to be the leaders. We're supposed to be the ones in control all the time.
Yeah.
When you have the right mastermind group, and I do believe there's a difference, that's where you get to go and be vulnerable and in a safe place that the outside world isn't going to know about. Our groups, it's called the Circle of Trust for a reason. Everything that happens there stays there, which is very similar to most mastermind groups. However, I feel like because we don't focus on trying to get you to a high net worth, like we're not measuring success by how many deals you did this year or how many zeros are on every check. We measure success by, are you living the vision you want for your life?
Yeah.
Like I mentioned a few times today. So I feel like if Tracy and I would have embraced building a network and getting involved in a mastermind in 2004 and 2005 when we started,
right,
probably would have avoided the heartache and the bankruptcy and the foreclosures and everything we went through.
Yeah.
Although that did turn out to be a blessing in disguise because I do get to teach and educate now because of all the shit we went through.
100%. Yeah. I think everybody at a certain poise or certain maturity understands it's exactly that. The downturn is for the better.
Mm-hmm.
But love the authenticity there about a group, whether it's yours, whether it's someone else's, whether it's Gathering the Kings. We were just talking about, again, before we hit the record button, there's so many entrepreneurs out there who need help. And that's genuinely why I feel like guys like you and I do this, and why guys like even you and I come together on a show like this. When, I mean, some would maybe consider us as even potential competitors, which that didn't even cross my mind. It's like, the example here is, look, you've got two guys giving you the opportunity to be the better version of yourself. I still want to reach and meet the better version of me. And that's why I continue to surround myself with guys like Derek. And so the reality here is that you need it. And I think you hit that home pretty well. I got one more question for you. If you lost it all, which maybe you've kind of already experienced a little bit.
If I lost it all again.
Okay. If you lost it all again, what would you do?
Hands down, I would rebuild the real estate side using options and master leasing properties because I can do both with almost zero money.
Right.
And I would likely, because of the experience I now have, I would likely go and partner up with other, existing companies that were struggling in their acquisitions and their negotiations. Cause I know I can close deals. I just can. So that's how I would start over, but I would not be working for anybody as an employee. I'm unemployable at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. You know too much. Like you said, your expertise is too good.
Yeah. But that's it.
Derek, you've been incredible. Yeah. I think that you didn't even really hesitate there, but starting over is a choice, and you didn't, that choice wasn't even like a blip. It was, well, what would I do, as opposed to would I start over? That wasn't even a question in your mind. So now that that's a big deal, I think a lot of entrepreneurs at this level would obviously start over, but hearing it from a guy like you who's done it before, man, you would do it again, is a huge encouragement, I think, to people out there who might be struggling. So how can the listener find you? Maybe they need money for a deal, or maybe they want to come to this event that you got coming up. Tell us how they can find you.
Yeah, for sure. So my email address, which I actually do still check, I have employees, but I monitor my own email, and my assistant may do some responding for me, but I monitor it.
There you go. That's right.
Simply my first name, Derek, DEREK, at our company name, REIFunding.com. Chaz, I've got a couple books I'm authoring. One I'm authoring myself, and one I'm co-authoring with a bunch of other awesome people. Both of these books are going to be coming out at the end of the year. I'd love to give them to your listeners for free, the e-version.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to just send me an email to Derek at Best REI Funding, just put in there, heard you on Chaz's show, would love to get on the list for the free book. As soon as it comes out, we'll be blasting that out to everybody. Our conference, it's called the Generations of Wealth. It's held in February in Cancun, Mexico. And real quick, it's a 5-day conference. We have speakers from 9 a.m. until 1 in the afternoon. non-selling speakers. This is advanced strategies. This is not really designed for brand new people. Brand new people are still going to get a lot out of it, but some of it might be a little over your head. And then the whole afternoon is designed to network and grow those relationships with people, grow your network with people from all over the country. We also come back in the evenings with a town hall session, which is, more interactive. But what I'm super proud of, we've been talking about kids. We encourage you to bring your kids. There's no charge for your kids to come into the conference. They can sit in on anything they want. We really want, your kids and our kids to meet and grow their network while they're in their early teen years, and just do something we didn't do until we were in our 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
So gowvoyage.com is how you find out about that. It is a limited event. I mean, I don't say that to be salesy. Like, I've only blocked off a certain number of rooms at this all-inclusive resort because, full disclosure, I'm on the hook if they don't sell out. And so I would encourage your listeners, when they hear this podcast, jump on that website, check it out if it's something that you think is for you.
That's incredible. Thank you for that opportunity. And I would highly suggest that anybody who's resonated here today take advantage of that. I mean, what an opportunity, especially with the kids. All the places that we went there earlier in the show, of the things that we can do, the things that we are doing with the minds of our children. I love just to kind of end it off, the lineage or the leverage that we have with the next generation if used properly. And it is legacy. It's really what it is. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's really incredible that you have done what you've already done. We wish you nothing but success and blessing on all that you continue to put your hand to. So thanks for being here.
I appreciate you having me, Chaz. I really do.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.